How's it going, everyone? My name is RoShawn C. Evans. Thank you for tuning back in to my YouTube channel. If you have not subscribed, please select the subscribe button. This is going to be my third video going through my courtroom case reports. If you have not watched the previous two videos, please go back and watch them before you get into this video. That way you can actually follow what's going on. Now, I'm not a lawyer, but I'm trying to figure out how did I end up here. Long story short, to give people a little bit of clearance that is just tapping in right now, and again, hopefully you go watch my other two videos, is that I am 38 years old. I'll be turning 39 in maybe 12 days, I believe. Today is May 16th, actually, 2000. It's a Saturday. But at the age of 17, I got sucked into the criminal justice system on the account of someone sneaking out of her home, getting in trouble, and putting the blame on me. The driving force for my case was a hungry prosecutor, an angry parent, and a young, scared lady with a mixed story that, if you go through my paperwork, which we've been doing, you can tell she's been trying to not get in trouble by her mom, but yet not get me in trouble. And now, as time went on, it seemed that she conformed, and it seemed like they are doing everything they can to prevent the truth from coming out, and it's not like I want anybody to get in trouble. I'm not trying to bash anyone or down anyone. I'm not trying to humiliate anyone. I'm just tired of going through the humiliation myself from a case that I shouldn't have lingering over my name. The case that I was charged with as a 17-year-old kid, or I should say signed a plea deal to, was CSC in the 4th degree, which is criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree. Maximum sentence to this misdemeanor is 2 years. Maximum charge is 2 years or a $500 fine. But yet, it's over 20 years later and I'm still dealing with this particular case. And I need to figure out, how do I fix this? If no one's going to come help me fix it, I have to try to figure it out myself. So, I'm going to jump into it because we don't have a lot of time. This is actually a big packet that we're going through today. This is a court transcript that we will be reading word from word. Now, throughout this transcript, I do have a lot of things that's highlighted, so on and so forth. So I'm going to go through the things that's highlighted because I want to point out a few things that's been highlighted. So before we start, I want to start by giving you the case number for those that like to go back and research the case, pull the records, or, get whatever information so you can figure out maybe some of the stuff that I still hadn't figured out going through this paperwork. But this is only my story. This is my story that I'm telling you. I'm 33% of this story. These courtroom packets and documents is the other 33%. And the last 33.4% will be the other party that was actually involved. So if you want the 100% full story, go speak to that 33.34%, which name I will refrain from using because, again, at the age of 17, and I got charged with CSC 4th degree, which is statutory. She was considered a minor because we were 1 year and 4 months apart. So I will refrain from using her name, but these are open records. So if you want to know the name or who's, pull the court records. Let's dig into it. Court case is going to be 005 992 FH. Again, that case number is 00-5992FH. This is the people of the state of Michigan versus RoShawn Evans. Monday, May 1st, 2000, at 9:05 a.m., court case number 2000-5992-FH, the people versus RoShawn Evans. Good morning, Mr. Grant. This is the courts talking. Good morning, Mr. Grant. Mr. Grant is my lawyer, by the way. Mr. Grant. Good morning, Your Honor. The court. Are you RoShawn? I am. The court. Would you raise your right hand, please? Do you swear and affirm to testify you give, the testimony you give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, so help you God? I do. All right. The defendant sworn by the court and testified. I didn't testify. I said, I swear to tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth. The court. Mr. Nubula. Mr. Nubula is the prosecuting attorney. Mr. Nubula, the record should reflect I've provided counsel with the information which alleges that RoShawn C. Evans, on or about December 24th of 1999 in the city of Flint, Genesee County, Michigan, did commit the crime of criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree and did engage in sexual contact with the young lady, a person who is 13 years of age and under the age of 16, and the defendant is 5 or more years younger than that person. Now, remind you, I was 17 years old and me and the young lady is 1 year and 4 months apart, but this, and what they're charging me with, is criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree. Let me get that real quick. If I didn't, sorry if I didn't get that alarm, it would have kept going off every 15 minutes. But remind you, I was 17 years old. Me and the young lady were 1 year and 4 months apart. She snuck out of her home. They say I could not legally touch her or do anything with her because she was a minor. And the only way I could do anything with her, it was if she got legal guardians or parents' consent. So, they are charging me with statutory. But in this bill or this law that they are charging me with states that I am 5 or more years older than this young lady when we are literally 1 year and 4 months apart. How do they get this language? The defendant did, so, let's say, he did commit the crime of criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree and did engage in sexual contact with the young lady, a person who is at least 13 years of age and under 16. The defendant is 5 or more years older than that person. I was 17 years old. It is a circuit court misdemeanor carrying a penalty up to 2 years in prison and or a fine up to $500. And it requires mandatory AIDS and STD testing. So this charge that they wanted to charge me with, or this charge that they are pushing for me to sign, this plea deal for misdemeanor statutory touching a minor, has a maximum sentence of 2 years in prison or a $500 fine because she fell between 13 and 16, even though we were peers and we are 1 year and 4 months apart. Literally just because I was right over 16 and she was right there. They are charging me with statutory, even though she snuck out of her home. And I had no idea that she snuck out of her house. Let's continue. The court. Mr. Grant, would you acknowledge receipt of the following information? My attorney, Mr. Grant. Yes, Your Honor, we have. The court. All right. Just for my benefit, Mr. Evans, I show you have a birthday of May 26th. May 28th. My birthday is May 28th. The court. May 28th? Yeah. 1982? Uh-huh. My lawyer. Yes. So, I follow him. Yes, Your Honor. The court. So, would you be 17 now? Would you be 17 now? Yes, I am 17. Defendant, 1 year, 4 months younger than me, and at this time she was actually 16 years old. The court. How old is Miss English? What's her birthday? Now, she was 16 at this time, but when she snuck out of her home, she was 15. Her birthday was like in 3 more weeks. This happened in December. Her birthday was in January. We are peers. We 1 year and 4 months apart, but the time she snuck out of her home, she was 3 weeks younger than 16. And I didn't know that. You know, like, I don't know what or how old I knew she was. I just, at that time, I do know that we are peers and we're in the same age group. But I didn't know she snuck out of her home. How old is Miss English and what's her birthday? Your Honor, the complaining victim is 15 years old. She was 16. She was 15 when she snuck out of the house. Her birthday was 3 weeks later. But they never mentioned her birthday right here because she was 16. Her birthday in January. The court. Then, this is the judge. Now, the judge asked, listen to what the judge asked. The judge. Then how do we get the language and the information that the defendant was 5 or more years older than her? The hungry prosecutor. This is how he responded. Mr. Nubla is his name. Well, Your Honor, I guess we would have to rely on the ability to use the line factual basis for the prior charge, which originally was criminal sexual conduct in the 3rd degree. And the basis of that was the person who was the victim was between the ages of 13 and 16. So, if we establish a factual basis for that charge, then we will be sufficient to make factual basis for the charge that we have in this case. So, in other words, they saying for the factual basis on the previous charge, it states that as long as you're between the ages of 13 and 16, and if that's the factual basis, we can use the other part of that charge as well for the factual basis that the defendant was 5 or more years older than the young lady. Well, ultimately, I was 17, she was 16, and we are 1 year and 4 months apart, literally. The court. Mr. Grant, he's asking my lawyer, like, do you agree? My lawyer, this is how my lawyer respond. Well, Your Honor, I've been actually, I can't talk right now. I have a sinus problem acting up. But I've been concerned about this case since day 1, Your Honor. There's a 2-year disparity between the ages of the defendant and the complainant. We're 1 year and 4 months apart, not 2 years. Sometimes it'll appear we're 2 years, other times it'll appear we're 1 year, and that's because we are 1 year and 4 months apart. 1 year, 4 months. There's a 2-year disparity between the ages of the defendant and the complainant. It's a situation where the defendant and the complainant had a relationship going on, Your Honor. But for the fact that the complainant was underage, my client wouldn't be here. And I just couldn't jeopardize him going to trial on a 15-year felony. So pretty much, my lawyer's saying, because she fell in that age gap of 13 and 16, even though we were peers, even though we're so close in age, that puts her in the age gap of a minor. And just because she fall in that age gap of a minor, I am looking at a 15-year felony, and he couldn't jeopardize me going to prison for 15 years because she fell in that minor window. The court. All right, well, there is the court rule, which indicates that the factual basis or a plea to a greater charge allows acceptance a plea to a lesser charge on the basis that the defendant is getting the benefits of the bargain. In this case, he's, Mr. Grant, the court. He's getting to assume responsibility for a 2-year circuit court misdemeanor rather than a 15-year felony. And I assume that it is the basis of the agreement. That was made correct, my attorney, Mr. Grant? That's correct, Your Honor. The court, all right. Mr. Evans, do you understand what we're talking about here? Yes. Now, let me back up real quick before I get through the rest of this packet. I accepted this plea deal. I accepted this plea deal because, like they keep talking about this 15-year felony, I accepted this plea deal because I didn't want to go to prison for 15 years. Before I actually came to speak to this judge, my lawyer spoke to me before this setting. Right before this setting. And he told me, he pulled me to the side and he told me, he said, RoShawn, look, nobody care about your story. Nobody care about what happened. Nobody care about what didn't happen. Nobody care about what you did or what you didn't do or what she did. Nobody care about nothing at all. He said, the only thing anybody care about is guilty or innocent. And if you say anything that is not guilty, if you say innocent, you will get 15 years in prison. If you say anything that make the judge believe that you're innocent and not guilty, you will get 15 years in prison. If you say anything to make the judge think that you really not taking this deal because you want to take this deal, you will get 15 years in prison. This is this 15-year felony they keep talking about. He telling me if for any reason I do not agree to all the terms of what's about to take place, I'm going to get this 15 years. If it's just one thing that I don't agree with, I'm going to get 15 years. He assured me I will get 15 years in prison. And I was 17. 17 years old, thinking about 15 years in prison, and I couldn't imagine doing 24 hours. I tell everybody that. It's like, never thought I would even be thinking about the day where I may have to go to jail or prison, especially as a teenager. So, the judge asked me, do you understand what I'm talking about here? I say yes. You know, like, if I say anything outside of yes, then I'm going to prison for 15 years. And I wasn't taking that. By no means. The court. All right. You've had an opportunity to discuss with your attorney, Mr. Grant, your option in this case. Me, yes. The court. And is it your opinion that it is to your benefit to accept the plea deal that was offered? Me, yes. Of course, I felt the benefit of taking this deal because if I didn't take this deal, they was going to push me into a 15-year prison sentence. And I wasn't taking that. So I had no way out. It was either 15 years in prison or accept a statutory charge for somebody that snuck out of her home that's a year and 4 months younger than me because of her angry parent, because of something she started in the house that she didn't think was going to get that serious, that ultimately got more serious than what she expected. And now here I am 20 years later still dealing with the situation, trying to figure out how to fix this. So, you discussed with Mr. Grant your options in this? Me, yes. The court. And is it your opinion that it is to your benefit to accept the plea deal that is offered? Of course. Yes, the court. All right. Mr. Nubula, again, that's the prosecutor. What is the plea agreement? Mr. Nubula, Your Honor, the original charge in this case was criminal sexual conduct in a third degree, which is a felony carrying a penalty of up to 15 years, and this also requires a mandatory AIDS and STD testing. This arrangement was made in district court on April 18th of 2000. It was reduced to writing and signed by all parties, and it calls for the original charge to be amended from CSC in the third degree to CSC fourth, which is the charge and the information. The defendant will plead guilty to the charge and the information, and that will resolve the matter. Further terms of the agreement are with regards to the Cobbs Agreement or sentencing agreement, there is none, or the offer is revoked. Drug or sentence. So a Cobbs Agreement, there is no Cobbs Agreement. He's saying there is no Cobbs Agreement, meaning I'm going to sign this deal. First of all, I had no idea I signed anything agreeing to anything on April 18th at this time. Literally, like, in my mind, all this was going to go away at the age of 17. In my mind, like, I was going to court, I was signing papers, they was telling me to come back to another court date, but in my mind, you know, like, I didn't think nothing was going to happen to me. But yet, they got me signing to agreements at the age of 17 that I had no idea I was signing. Furthermore, they gave me a Cobbs, took away the Cobbs Agreement. Now, to my understanding, when you take away a Cobbs Agreement, that means somebody is signing a plea deal, but yet they don't get the full terms of the sentence. So whatever they are going to, or how they're going to charge you, you really don't know until they give you that charge. So they had me agree to a guilty plea that I didn't even know I signed and agreed to, and didn't have any consequences for me yet. So they was going to make them up and give them to me later. Also, it comes with drug or sentence arrangements. There is none. But I don't believe that it's applicable anyways. Let me check. Yes, it's implicable, because there is no priors to serve as the basis for arraignment. Consecutive, and this is old paperwork, so a lot of the ink is missing, so bear with me. I know how to read. Consecutive sentencing, that also there is none. Homeless youth training status, there is none, or the offer is revoked. 74 even status, there's none. Restriction is or as ordered by the court. And this is a complete plea deal. The court. Mr. Grant, is it your understanding of this agreement? My attorney, Mr. Grant. Yes, it is, Your Honor. The court. Mr. Evans, you've heard the agreement that's been placed on the record, and is that your understanding as well? Me. Yes. The court. In the fact you signed the agreement back in district court for about 2 weeks ago, right? Yes. I had no idea I signed anything 2 weeks ago, but I said yes. The court. Do you have any questions about the agreement? No. The court. Do you understand that the offense that you were originally charged with, that is criminal sexual conduct in the third degree, was a felony carrying up to 15 years in prison? And if I'm not mistaken, you cannot get probation for that offense. Do you understand that? Yes. I understood that clear. My lawyer told me if I didn't take this deal, I was going to get 15 years in prison. And just like this judge just said right here in this statement, that you cannot get probation for this offense, meaning you're going to prison if you don't accept this deal. No way out of it. You take the deal or you're going to prison. My lawyer told me I was going for 15 years. The court. And again, when I say the court, that's the judge. It was Judge Yu. That's his name. The court. The offense that you will be pleading guilty to is a circuit court misdemeanor, can carry a maximum to up to 2 years in prison. There is no mandatory minimum that has to be imposed, and what the terms that your sentence can range where from a term of probation or 2 years in prison. Do you understand that? Yes. So, my lawyer told me if I agree to this charge, he assured me that I was going to walk out of here as a free man. He told me if I agree to all the terms, if I pretty much just say yes to everything and agree and take this guilty plea, I will walk out as a free man with 36 months probation and an ankle monitor. That's what my lawyer told me. I heard walk out of here as a free man with probation, or don't take a deal and take 15 years in prison. Do you understand that? Yes. The court. Do you have any questions about the agreement at all? No. The court. Do you understand that if you plead guilty, you will not have a trial of any kind, and you're giving up your rights that you would have at a trial? My lawyer said. My lawyer, he assured me that I would go to prison for 15 years if I went to trial. So, like, if I went to trial, if I didn't take this deal, he told me if I didn't take this deal, if I had went to trial, I was getting 15 years in prison. I was 17 again. I wasn't doing that. Like, I didn't even think that this case was serious until they had actually started talking about 15 years in prison, and that's when I knew it was like, oh, this is real. You know, like, they really trying to take me down, and I didn't even understand why. It's like, in my naive mind, again, I tell this to everybody too, but I truly believe that as long as you tell the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but the truth, especially in the court of law, everything will be alright, so help you God. And it wasn't like that. I told the truth, and they disregarded everything I said and did what they wanted to do anyway. Matter of fact, my truth and everything that I said, they took it out of the whole entire packet. But the defendant, they asked me, do you understand? I say yes. The court, or Judge Yu, the rights that you're giving up, Mr. Evans, include your right to a jury trial, your right to have a trial by judge without a jury, if that were your choice. If that were your choice. Your right to be presumed innocent until proven guilty. Your right to be recognized that the prosecuting attorney prove you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. So, I was giving up my rights to a jury trial. I was giving up my rights to have a prosecutor prove me guilty beyond reasonable doubt. Something else my lawyer told me. And my lawyer told me that because the law states if you're between, he said, since the law states you can't legally have sex unless you are 18 years of age or older, and if you're 16 and under, you're considered to be a minor. By me writing a 16-page statement, which is nowhere in none of my packets, none of my documents, since I said everything that happened from the beginning to the end, which nothing happened except a young lady snuck out of her home, came to hang out. We did what we wanted to do, which was be grown. She did have sex with somebody else that wasn't me. But since I touched her, since I fondled her and she fondled me, and she didn't have a legal parent or guardian's consent, that was illegal. So it didn't matter that she was touching me and I was touching her. It didn't matter that she snuck out of her house. Just because she touched me and I touched her and she was between that 13 and 16 gap, that I broke a law. And we're a year and 4 months apart. So my lawyer told me that me touching her and me admitting that I touched her, because I didn't think I had to hide that, because I told them exactly what happened. He said that was enough for them to actually charge me because I touched her. But I didn't do anything that was out of line. Like, again, we were kids being kids. We're a year and 4 months apart. She snuck out of her home. I didn't know she snuck out of her home. We did what we wanted to do. Yes, I touched her, but I didn't commit no crimes. I mean, even the laws today got a Romeo and Juliet law that I believe should be applicable, but nothing's that simple. And nothing's free. Where was I? The right to require that the prosecuting attorney be proven you guilty beyond a reasonable doubt. Your right to have the witnesses against you appear before you and testify before you at the time of trial. Your right to question or cross-examine the witnesses. Your right to have me order, excuse me, any witnesses you would want to testify in your defense would appear at trial. You're also giving up your right to remain silent. Your right to remain silent. Your right to have your silence used against you. And you're giving up your right to testify at trial if you choose to testify at trial. Do you understand that you're giving up those rights if you plead guilty this morning? Yes. The court. You should also be aware that because your conviction will be based upon a quality plea, you would not have an automatic right to appeal your conviction and sentence. Any appeal that you would take would have to be by what we call leave. I think that's leave to appeal. That means you must first get permission from the Court of Appeals before they would even hear your case. I was in a courtroom at 17 with no guidance, no support. I'm doing this by myself. Didn't think I was going to get charged for nothing until they was actually charging me with something. And when they was charging me with something, I was in a courtroom by myself listening to this. I had no idea what half of this stuff is. Still right now to this day at 38, I still don't understand this stuff. And that's because I'm not a lawyer. But pretty much they saying even if I wanted to appeal, I can't appeal nothing without getting permission from somebody else. Who is this somebody else? I have no idea, but I'll be stuck with this case until I'm not stuck with this case no more. Do you understand that? Yes. Again, I have to say yes to all this, or my deal was gone. The court. Are you on probation or parole of any offense? Me. Yeah. The court. And what is that? Public and fine. This is me talking. Public and fine. The court. What? Long time ago. My attorney. Are you on probation? Me. It's not probation. It's like the court. Was it juvenile court? Me. I didn't even have to go to court or nothing. The court, all right, Mr. Grant, I'm not aware of him being on probation. The court, I don't show any prior. The defendant, me, I ain't had to go to court or nothing. I just said down when they seen me in that like fine in public. I want to say something. They asked me yes or no questions. I was 17 years old. My attorney told me pretty much if I didn't agree to this stuff, I was going to serve 15 years in prison. So I had to say yes. So when the judge asked me yes or no questions, I said yes. Unless he asked me something like something that I know I was supposed to say no to. Like, I almost knew when I was supposed to say no. I almost knew when I was supposed to say yes. Because my lawyer told me that if I didn't take the deal that they was giving me, I was going to get 15 years. I was 17. I was not doing 15 years by no means. But as soon as we move past these yes or no questions, and again, I'm 17. I'm a minor. I'm under 18. I'm not in the court with a parent. But as soon as they start asking me sentence questions, listen to how I'm talking. And it's like, they took advantage of me. You know, like, I understand what I understand, but I don't understand what I need to understand. What I understand is that I'm not going to prison. But what I don't understand is a lot of this that they talking about. I just understand that if I don't do what they tell me to do, I'm going to prison. And that's it. Point blank, period. I'm going to do it again. That means you must first get permission from the courts to appeal before they would even listen to your case. Do you understand that? Yes. The court, are you on probation or parole for any other offense? Yeah. And I wasn't, but I said yeah. The court, and what is that? Fine in public. What? Long time ago. My attorney, are you on probation? Me. It's not probation, it's like the court. What is it, juvenile? Me. I ain't know. I don't even have to go to court for nothing. The court, alright. My attorney, I'm not aware of him being on probation. The court, I don't show any priors. Me. I ain't have to go to court or nothing. I just said down when they see me and like fighting in public. The court, alright. You're not on probation. Where you report every month? Where you report every month to somebody? The court, alright, Mr. Evans. How do you plead to the charge of criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree? Guilty. The court, do you understand what it means when you say, I plead guilty? The defendant, yes. The court, do you understand that by pleading guilty, you're giving up your rights that you would have at a trial that I explained to you? Yes. The court, is it your choice to plead guilty? Yes. Has anyone threatened you in order for you to plead guilty? No. The court, has anyone promised you anything in order to get you to plead guilty? No. Has anyone used any undue influence or force against you that is causing you to plead guilty? No. The court, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? Yes. The court, oh, and I must say, before I answered every question, literally before I answered every question, when the judge asked me a question, before I gave him an answer, I looked up at my lawyer and he would go like this, and if he go like this, I'll say yes. If he go like this, I'll say no. So every time you see or hear me read a question, I'll look up at my lawyer, and my lawyer be like, or the court, are you pleading guilty freely and voluntarily? Yes, the court. Once again, other than the promises that you have been in writing in this agreement, have there been any other promises made to you that are getting you to plead guilty? My lawyer told me if I didn't take this plea deal, I would get 15 years in prison. I was 17. I mean, but I don't think they was talking about that promise. No. The court, if there are promises or threats that have been made to you or against you, you will have to tell me about them today. If you don't, you can't come back later and claim that's because of the promises or threats. It really wasn't your own choice to plead guilty today. Do you understand that? Yes. The court, are there any promises or threats like you haven't told me about? No. The court, have you taken any medication or any drugs or intoxicants that are affecting you at this present time? No. The court, have you understood my questions? Yes. The court, have you understood your conversation with Mr. Grant? Yes, I sure did. I understood him say, if I don't agree to this deal, then I'm getting 15 years. I understood him say, if I agree to this deal, I'm going to walk out of here as a free man with probation, 36 months probation and 6 months ankle monitor. The court, and once again, have you had any time to discuss this with Mr. Grant, your options in this case? The judge asked me, have I had a chance to talk my options out with my lawyer? I had two options. 15 years of probation. At least I thought it was just probation, but we'll get there. Yes. The court. Are you satisfied with the decision you've made to plead guilty in this charge? Yes. I was satisfied I didn't have to go to prison for 15 years. I wasn't satisfied I was forced into lying and taking a plea deal in order to avoid that time. The court. Mr. Evans, I want to take you back to December 24th, 1999 in the city of Flint, Michigan, Genesee County. I want you to tell me what happened between you and Miss English. We had sex. That's what I told the courts. We had sex. We never had sex. We never had sexual intercourse, but I thought that I was supposed to tell them that we had sex, and if I didn't have sex, that everything that I was agreeing to was going to get taken back, and it was going to cause me to have to go to prison for 15 years. So I said what they wanted me to say. So we had sex. And again, all we did was touch each other. We never had sexual intercourse. The only person she had sex with was somebody else that was not me. The court, all right. Is she an acquaintance of yours? I mean, did you know her before this? Yeah. Yes, I knew her like 4 years. The court, all right. I don't want to put words in your mouth, but were you two dating, boyfriend and girlfriend? I said yes. And again, we would like, no, we wouldn't, but I thought that I had to say yes, and if I didn't say yes, then they was going to take my deal. So I said yes again because I thought I was supposed to say yes. The court, all right. And when you say we had sex, I'm not trying to be or pray, or I don't know. But I need to know what you mean by we had sex. Did you have sexual intercourse? Yes. Again, if I didn't say yes, my lawyer told me that, or at least I felt that I had to agree with everything in order to get this deal. If I didn't agree with this deal or agree with whatever the judge was asking me, then I was going to go to trial. And if I go to trial, I was going to get 15 years. So, in the court, as a result of that, did your penis enter her vagina? Yes. The court. Now, it's been represented to me that she was 15 years old back in December. 3 weeks later, she was 16. I was 17. We're a year and 4 months apart, literally. But she still falls between 13 and 16. But we both still under 18. We both still under 18. If you can't legally have sex unless you're 18 years of age, we both were under 18. But yet she fell between 13 and 16 to where you can't legally do anything unless you have legal parent or guardian's consent. Well, where do a 17-year-old fall? Because that's where I was. Yes, the court. Anything further on a factual basis, Mr. Nubula? Mr. Nubula. No, Your Honor. The court. Mr. Grant. No, Your Honor. The court. Are either counsel aware of any promises, threats, or non-disclosed events on a record, Mr. Nubula? No, Your Honor. The court. Mr. Grant, no, Your Honor. The court. I have compelled with the court rules regarding pleas, Mr. Nubula. Mr. Nubula, yes, Your Honor. The court. Mr. Grant, yes, Your Honor. The court. Once again, Mr. Evans, you understand the agreement that's been made. The defendant, yes. The court. And I suppose that you should be aware as well that one of the consequences of this plea is that not only do you have to be tested for AIDS and STD, but it does require that you register as a sex offender. Do you understand that? I said yes. So he said, so they had me sign this deal to avoid 15 years in prison. My lawyer told me all I would get is 36 months probation and 6 months ankle monitor. I was going to walk out of here as a free man. I would not have to do 15 years in prison. I was 17 years old, and I couldn't imagine doing 15 years in prison. But when we get all the way to the end, nobody ever mentioned any sex offender, anything, until at the end of court. We at the end of court. Now the judge throws in sex offender, and he say, as one of your conditions, you're going to have to register as a sex offender. Do you understand that, RoShawn? And listen to how I answer. Yes. I told him yes. Again, I had no idea what a sex offender was. Never even heard the term sex offender. Didn't even know it was a such thing as a sex offender. But I knew that whatever he wanted me to do, I had to do it. And if I said no, again, I would go to prison for 15 years. So, the Judge you, again, say, and I suppose that you should be aware as well that one of the consequences of this plea is that not only do you have to be tested for AIDS and STDs, but it does require that you register as a sex offender. Do you understand that? I say, yes. The very next sentence, the court, the judge you, after he asked me, do I understand that? And I tell him I understand that when I never even heard the phrase sex offender before in my life, never knew what it was. He asked my attorney, he said, Mr. Grant, the court, did Mr. Grant tell you about that? Now he asking me after he asked me, do I understand? And I told him, yes, I understand that I have to register as a sex offender. Didn't even know what it was. His next sentence, he asked me, did my lawyer, Mr. Grant, tell me about that? Before I can answer, because I was going to say yes, more than likely, my lawyer interjects and say, no, I didn't. No, I did not tell him, Your Honor. When my lawyer told the judge, Judge Yu, that he didn't tell me, my lawyer bent down and he said, RoShawn, you're going to have to tell the police where you live for the next 10 years. Okay. He told me that I'm going to have to tell the police where I live for the next 10 years. I was 17, which means I should be done when I was 27 years old. So now, my sentence went from 36 months probation, 6 months ankle monitor, to telling the police where I live for the next 10 years. It still beats going to prison for 15 years. So I told my lawyer, okay. Still didn't realize what I was agreeing to. I just knew that I was agreeing not to go to prison for 15 years. Again, I was 17. I mean, according to my lawyer, when he whispered in my ear, I should have been done at the age of 27. Right now, today, at this very moment, I am about to be 38 years old, I believe, in like 12 days. I'm still on the registry. They refuse to take me off. So I am 10 years over my 10 years that my lawyer whispered in my ear after he told the judge he didn't tell me what a sex offender was, when I told the judge that I understood that I had to register as a sex offender when I didn't even know what a sex offender was. I am in 20 plus years registering for something that I agreed to at the age of 17 that I had no idea what I was agreeing to, just to avoid 15 years in prison. Still here, dealing with this. The court. Alright. You understand the conviction here. You would have to register at the police agency as a sex offender. Again, I had no idea what that was. And that every time you move, you have to let the police agency know within 10 days. Again, that beats 15 years in prison. I'd rather tell them where I live for 10 years than go to prison for 15. That means I'm still free. I'm 20 plus years still on the registry. Do you understand? Yes. The court. Any questions about that? No. The court. The maximum penalty for this, Mr. Evans, is a 2 years in prison. You understand that? Yes. The court. Knowing all of that, what I've told you, do you understand do you want me to accept your guilty plea to this charge? Yes. Again, if I didn't take this guilty plea, I was going to prison for 15 years. It's either guilty or innocent. It's either walk out of here with probation, ankle monitor, and now at the end of the deal, they add this registry. Still beats 15 years in prison. At least that's what I thought. The court. I do find Mr. Evans' plea is made voluntarily with understanding, and that there's been no undue influence. No promises have been made to Mr. Evans except as stated on record or as contained in the written plea agreement. I further find that the offense to which he pleaded guilty to, that the criminal sexual conduct in the 4th degree, is an appropriate charge based on the factual basis to the greater charge of criminal sexual conduct in the 3rd degree, and that the defendant is receiving the benefit of the bargain, even though the factual basis support the higher charge rather than the charge in this court. And I do find that he is guilty of committing that offense. First of all, I must say this, and I'm about to say it direct. And I know a lot of people may not agree with what I'm about to say, may even get mad because they really, truly don't believe in racism, but racism really do exist. Now, again, I was a young African-American male in a courtroom at the age of 17 with no support system, and this girl sitting here with an angry parent mad at her daughter because she couldn't control her that snuck out of her home, with a hungry prosecutor and a white judge. Nothing happened. I've been telling them everything that happened from the beginning to the end, which nothing happened. I told them everything without leaving anything out. She did what she did. I did what I did. We did what we did. Nothing happened out of the ordinary. The only thing that was out of the ordinary was their household problem that she done out of the ordinary because her mama told her not to leave the front yard, but yet she did. Had no idea her mama told her not to leave the front yard, but I told them. She touched me, I touched her. I told them how we attempted to have sex. I couldn't get an erection. I told them everything from the beginning to the end. But yet, he talking about me like I'm some kind of criminal. My lawyer, a few pages before, states that the only reason that I am here in this courtroom facing a 15-year sentence is for the simple fact that this girl falls between 13 and 16. I'm 17. What crime could have possibly been committed from two peers that nothing happened? Like, where is the crime? The crime? Oh, the crime. The crime. The law. 13 and 16 a minor. 18 and over adult. I'm 17. I touch somebody that falls into a gap that's still my peer. So I touched a minor. Is that the crime? I guess. So he finds me guilty. I admitted that I touched her and she touched me, but where's the crime at? Now, if I was actually 5 or more years older than her touching somebody that was like fell in that gap, then maybe it'd be more understandable. But even as a 37-year-old, I still don't see the crime. You know, like, but again, me sitting in the courtroom at that time, being an African-American male in an American courtroom, I'm certain how people can see the crime. My little rant. But anyways, I also find that he understands the rights that he's given up by virtue of this guilty plea, that he does not understand the consequences in terms of sentencing or the potential consequences. And I do accept his guilty plea. Mr. Grant, May 31st, 2 p.m. or June 7th at 2 p.m. My lawyer, Mr. Grant, May 31st is fine, Your Honor. The court, all right. I'll reschedule sentencing for Wednesday, May 31st at 2 p.m. I will continue the bond pending sentence. Mr. Grant will show you where you need to go go after you leave here today, Mr. Evans. Anything further for the record, Mr. Nubula? Mr. Nubula. No, Your Honor. The court. Mr. Grant, I just want to give the court 2 letters from the complainant who wrote my client. Now again, back when we was kids, and I didn't realize that this was the young lady until my cousins told me when we got older. We was actually in our 20s when they told me that this was the girl. But in grade school, it used to be a little girl who used to follow me around my auntie's church. They had video games in the basement. We used to play them. And there used to be a young lady follow me around the church before I was even into females. Guess who it was? You guessed it. Right. It was her. Never messed with her again. I wasn't into females, but a few years later, Now I'm going into middle school, high school. And I walk into a football game, Central and Southwestern, I believe, maybe. But I bumped into a woman that was so infatuated with me that she just had to introduce me to her daughter. And guess who that woman that was infatuated with me? Right, you guessed it again. Her mama. And who did she want to introduce me to? Correct. Her daughter. This girl right here. And yes, the girl called me so much that I literally memorized her phone number after a few days of her calling. My mom cussed her out, told her not to call me no more. I quit answering her phone calls. After I stopped answering her phone calls, this girl began to start sending letters to my house. I have no idea how she even got my address. This particular night, I called this girl and asked her, can she get out? She got out. I had no idea she snuck out. Brought these letters to the court. My 16-page statement going that I wrote, stating everything that happened from the beginning to the end, which nothing happened. Me explaining everything that happened. It's not in here. The letters I brought to the court from her writing me when I still lived with my mama at the time, because I wouldn't answer her calls. My mama told her not to call no more. They admit that they hear, but yet are not a part of none of these packets. I just want to give the court 2 letters that the complainant wrote my client. She was sending me pictures and stuff in the mail. Her at Chuck E. Cheese. The court. Alright. I'll put them with the pre-sentencing report. Okay. But they not there. Yeah, they not there. The court. While you were up here. Okay, the court. While you're up here, 9 a.m. conference bench begins. 9 a.m. conference at bench ends. So they had a bench meeting. I have no idea what they said. This is when my lawyer and the prosecutor and the judge go to the bench and they talk and they do whatever they say. It's not documented on what they said. The court. Anything further for the record, Mr. Nubula? No, Your Honor. Mr. Grant? No, Your Honor. The court. All right. Thank you, gentlemen. 919 proceedings concluded. So, again, I am here. Because someone snuck out of their home that fell between the ages of 13 and 16. I signed a plea deal to avoid 15 years in prison. My lawyer told me I'll get 36 months probation, 6 months ankle monitor. At the very last minute, the judge threw in a term that I had never heard in my life, which was a sex offender. My lawyer told me I'll have to tell the police where I live for the next 10 years. Here I am, literally over 20 years later, still registering. And now I'm trying to figure out how to get off. So, I've took enough of your time. Thank you for going through this court docket transcript. Tune in for the next one. I'm actually going to go through my sentence guideline when I actually sign the, well, I guess it's already signed. But on the next one, you're not going to want to miss, because that minor is actually going to say something on record. And I want you to know what she said. So until then, I'll see you next time. Thank you for tuning in. Thank you for watching. If you have not subscribed, please subscribe. And this is case number 00-5992FH. The people of the state of Michigan versus RoShawn Evans. See you soon.